Hey everybody, welcome. Today I want to talk about a couple things. The first thing I want to discuss is my grip training, my current grip training, what I'm actually doing, how I've gotten my grip so strong. And the primary goal of mine was to make grip training part of my training without being part of it, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to kind of go through what I do on a daily basis to maintain a strong grip while also like avoiding fatigue, overuse, so that I can still come in strong for my back days, for any days that require any kind of grip, from ripping deadlifts or doing weighted pull-ups, anything like that. So I'm going to start off with kind of square one, where I developed this idea. So I used to specifically train grip. So I'd have a day where I do like forearms and grip training. And the reason I did that was because I think that grip is probably one of the most important aspects of training that gets severely neglected by most people in the gym, even for sports, wrestling, stuff like that. People don't, I think, specifically train grip, but there is a way to do it to where it's not taking up the majority of the time and it's not like taking up an entire hour or a couple hours a week, right? And the way I do it is I just do 5 reps when I get in my car of a gripper on each hand, so 10 reps total. And then I do 5 reps when I get out of my car. Now, you can kind of pick any way you want to do this. I mean, specifically, I put the Captain of Crush #2 gripper in my car, and I rip this 5 times each hand when I get in my car and when I get out. But you can do something like, as soon as you get to the office, you have one of these 5 times each hand. And the goal in the end, or what I found is kind of the sweet spot, is starting with something you can handle for 10 reps, doing that periodically throughout the day, every single day, or 3 times a week. The frequency, the most important thing here is not so much volume, it's not even frequency, it's like a certain level of time under tension. And because you're doing that every single day, over time you're building up a strength that is more akin to farmer's strength rather than gym strength. People consider farmers strong because they're continuously doing the same movements, deadlifting movements, pushing movements, lifting movements every day. And it's building up a certain amount of sinew and strength that is not really seen or found in the gym unless you do both, in which case it's great. There are obviously things you can do in the gym that you can't do in a farm, little intricate muscles that you need to heal or repair. You go to the gym for that. But I'm just going to go through a couple of my findings during the 1 month that I did this for. And I have a little paper kind of put together here, but basically, your nervous system gets better at recruiting motor units when you expose it to a movement, often without accumulating excessive fatigue. What I mean by that is that you should never do reps where you're like forcing or squeezing the last rep. You kind of just want to do things that are like close to failure, but not quite failure when it comes to grip. That's because you need your grip. You need to be able to move around. You need to be able to lift things up every day. So it would be kind of counterintuitive to just demolish your grip. The concept in this situation is called greasing the groove. So this concept was popularized by Pavel Tsatsouline. Basically, the idea is training frequently and staying away from failure most of the time. The reason why this works surprisingly well for grip is because it's continuous use, right? We're always using our hands. We're picking things up. We're moving things. We are always using our grip. And because we are always using our grip, our muscles in our forearms are specifically adapted to that style of training very well. You can make an argument that this works with pretty much every single muscle group, but I would say there are you know, certain aspects that aren't going to work. Like if you were to do deadlifts like this, it probably would be just over fatiguing and not very good for you. But I mean, it depends on how light you go too. There's a whole intricacy, but we're talking about specifically grip in this case. It works very well and has worked very well for me. Now, this is a number 2 Captain of Crush, but I started with a number 1 Captain of Crush. And during that period in time, what I was doing was I would do a couple of reps until I couldn't with the number 1, and then I would switch to the point 5, and I would do that a couple times. I would never force reps, so if I couldn't do another one, I would stop. And I did that for a couple weeks, and then I switched to the number 2. And on my left hand, I still can't close it, but it's kind of awkward with the left hand on these grippers. It's much easier to close on the right hand. And I think I have the strength. It's just like, it's just awkward. It's just not designed for the left hand. But when I eventually decided to move to the number 2 gripper was when I could do 10 reps of the 1. And I would just do 1 rep of these when I got in the car and 1 rep when I got home. And I increased those reps to now I'm doing about 5 reps. The last 2 being like, I can't close it all the way, but it's still doable to the point where it's not fatiguing me like all the way out here. So that's my basic concept on that. Now you can apply that to a lot of different forms of training for grip. I specifically use the gripper for now, but a very common form of grip training and something that I also like to do is just hanging from a bar. So the way you can incorporate this style of training with hanging from a bar is, let's say you set a goal time. So let's say a minute. That's a pretty decent goal for most people. That's something you probably should start with. So you start with a minute, and then what you're going to do is every single day in the morning, you get up, you hold your hands in that bar until it starts to get a little bit hard to hold, and then you drop. And you do that every day. And if you do that all the time, do not go to failure with that, because that kind of defeats the purpose of this style of training. But if you do that every day and you kind of get to that point where it starts to burn and then you drop down, you will eventually get to that minute, and it'll feel like significantly easier than if you just forced yourself through to the minute. Then you would work your way up to a minute and 10, then a minute and 20, and so on and so on. And you could do larger increments, or you could do smaller increments, but 10 seconds adding to hang training is, in my opinion, probably the way to go. For the grippers, like I said, start with something you can handle for 10 reps. And then once you kind of feel like that's getting too easy, then you move up to the next one, which in my case, I use Captain of Crush grippers. I just feel like Captain of Crush is the gold standard when it comes to grippers. I've yet to find one that feels as tough as this, even though I believe the number 2 Captain of Crush is 190 pounds. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. So that's my style training, and I will show you an example now of how I approach it. And you will feel on certain days you can't close it as easily as other days, and it's actually a very good indicator of your fatigue, even just from general lifting. So it'll help you also gauge your other lifts. So here we go. Let me set this mic down for a second here. So you get in your car, you got this in the glove compartment or somewhere. You're gonna grab it, kind of set it in your hand, right? Standard, set it in your hand. You're just gonna close it, and you're gonna do that. Reset it, close it, and you can see it's already getting relatively difficult for me, but reset it, close it. So that was 3. Then 4 and 5 are a little bit difficult for me, but 4, didn't close it all the way on that one. And then we'll go, it's also hot, sweaty, number 5. And you can see, like, I've not gotten to the point where I'm like struggling. Like maybe the last quarter, you kind of get what I'm saying here. Maybe the last little bit, I'm struggling a little bit, but I'm never getting to the point where I'm like out here and I can barely close it. And the reason is because you want to give that constant stimulus every day without obviously over fatiguing. So now we switch to the left hand. Left hand's going to go like that. 2. Left hand is harder with this gripper. I should probably get a left-hand gripper, keep 2 of them, but I don't think it makes a difference. I think you're developing the same strength regardless of whether you can close it or not. So 3. Reset. Number 4. You can see it's getting more difficult for me. And we'll go number 5. Number 5, see how it's kind of like out about that much, but it's still not fatiguing my hand to the point of failure. So, I mean failure as in I can't close it all the way, but not failure as in I can't hold the gripper and my hands still feel relatively fresh. So I would do that, set it down, driving, going somewhere, or just moving around, driving. And then when you stop at your destination, do that again. And you'll find that over time, first of all, those 5 reps become easier. But not only that, you'll significantly increase your grip strength without just like punching it in the gym, without just going ham on grip strength training. And I think that is, in my opinion, that is the ideal way to train grip. Just, if you're going to take anything from this video, just take the fact that grip training itself, functionally, you use your hands every day. They're very well adapted to frequency. They're not adapted to all-out force production, one-time force production. Now your forearms will grow too. So like I would say, pretty decently sized forearms. When I arm wrestle people, pretty good at it. That's not to say that that's more this grip, but I used to train that too. But that's not to say that this strength directly correlates, but it definitely does a little bit. And it's just healthy to have a good grip. Being able to lift yourself over things, being able to carry things, being able to hold things. It'll help you in almost every single one of your lifts in the gym too. Like lat pull, anything you're doing where you have to use your grip, you really don't want it to fatigue and have to use straps all the time for your back day. There are certain studies that also indicate that training grip can reduce the risk of tendonitis, especially in your elbow. On my right arm, I used to get this a lot when I was doing a lot of benching and disregarding grip. But now I don't experience that at all. So anecdotally, from my experience, that those studies seem to be pointing in the right direction or are true. That being said, if you want to try this training yourself, I would recommend doing it for 4 weeks and just seeing kind of how it feels for you. And let me know in the comments. Send me over a message. Tell me from your experience. And you can switch it up. You know, after that month, if you don't like using grippers, switch to just hanging from a bar. I mean, there's a way to do that can make it more difficult too. You can hang from your fingers. All of those sorts of things are going to help your grip. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please comment, like, and subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next one.